Are we on the verge of missing the next great innovation in computers? There are plenty of educators out there who fear the answer may be yes because too many kids aren't getting the exposure to computer science they need. George Sells reports on the group trying to do something about that before it's too late.
The year was 1985. Ronald Reagan was president, and today's grade schoolers weren't yet born. If you think about it, some of their parents and teachers weren't born either. That year, the government issued a report on education called Nation at Risk,
highlighting that 50% of the economic development in the United States since World War II was in technology.
And a major demand in the report?
They called for a graduation requirement in computer science across the nation.
A requirement that still isn't there 3 decades and 5 presidents later.
And the fact that now, and only now, are we really starting to see momentum across the board shows not only that computing has become a more pervasive part of our society, but we're recognizing that the work that students have to do, no matter what field it's in, is going to involve computers as part of the solution to the problems they tackle.
Which brings us to Washington University in St. Louis, where a group called Computer Science for All gathered educators this fall to make that name a reality, making computer science education a regular part of all students' lives.
What we share with communities all across the country is a desire to bring computer science almost as a civil rights issue, currently the students that have access to computer science in their schools are typically in the kids that you think of having access. They tend to be very male, very white and Asian, and we're leaving tons of kids outside of this experience of learning computer science.
When discussing innovations, this topic is a concern not so much in looking at what has been invented, but at what will be someday. What if the potential next Bill Gates or Steve Jobs doesn't come from an upper middle class suburb?
The idea that we might miss out on the next Apple, the next Microsoft, the next Google, the next Uber, because the human being whose brain is going to come up with that idea doesn't have access to computer science should be troubling for our society.
That is certainly the case for Darius Kirk. He's the principal at Riverview Gardens High School outside St. Louis. Sit down. A school in an economically disadvantaged area that's just holding on to its state accreditation. Many of his students face an uphill climb in a digital world.
I understand that our parents, they didn't have access to, electronics, they didn't have access to technology.
But bringing computer science requires funding. Not easy here. So Kirk and his staff got creative.
We then started searching and we were able to locate an Apple grant. And so with that Apple grant, we were able to get a one-to-one initiative for all of my scholars and then also my teachers. And so all of my scholars have access to an iPad, and then all of my teachers have access to an iPad and a MacBook.
This isn't just a challenge for inner city schools. Rural districts like tiny Stockton, Missouri, population 1,800, are scrambling to fund this as well.
We are working through how to, one, get people qualified to teach it, because in my district, it's just me, K through 12.
In Stockton, community organizations have pitched in. Local support is becoming easier to get because the need for computer science in the real world is becoming so clear.
I come from a rural farming community, and my farmers are having to work with apps, and they're having to work with computer programs to run their machinery now. And so they see it, they know what's going on. There's not a company out there anymore that's not pretty much a tech company. So they see that they need to prepare their kids to be able to do this.
Computer science is now a strong part of every discipline.
At Washington University, they see this need for computer science education in incoming freshmen every year, not in the students enrolling in computer science, but in the rest.
I think the bigger problem is they don't see themselves as possibly being interested in the field. They don't see themselves as perhaps being able to do computer science.
Oh, him? He's nobody.
Not nobody, he is part of the kitchen.
So there's this great movie, Ratatouille, right? And there's the chef who says, anyone can cook.
What do I always say? Anyone can cook.
And by the end of the movie, we come to understand, well, not everybody wants to cook, but a great chef could come from anywhere. And the same thing's true of computer scientists. They could come from anywhere. And right now, we're missing a large opportunity by not interesting, attracting, and enrolling students from a wider spectrum.
They will tell you success here is a marathon, not a sprint, but that doesn't mean there doesn't need to be some urgency.
Access to equitable education is a civil right. And in today's economy, access to computer science knowledge can open doors that don't exist for you. The door doesn't even exist for you if you don't have that knowledge. So computer science education is a civil right.
For Innovations, I'm George Sells.